Alrighty, Sans is back with another tax video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the 5 dumbest things that people have tried to deduct on their tax return. Alrighty, bro, starting off with the number 1 dumbest thing that people have tried to deduct on their tax return. And that is a fucking wedding. A motherfucking wedding, bro. A wedding. It's crazy. So a couple, they got married. And for their wedding, they actually invited some business clients. And along with that, they had also given out some business cards for their business. So they had a business. They were having a wedding. In their wedding, they invited business clients to the wedding, and they gave out business cards for their business. And because they did these things, in their mind they thought that they could deduct it on their tax return, but that is obviously not a deductible expense. Your wedding is a personal expense. Every single one of the wedding guests could have been a business client, and you could have given every single business client that attended a business card. You could have given the motherfucking priest a business card, and it still wouldn't have been a deductible expense because it's a personal expense. It relates to your personal life. When you and your wife get married, that's personal. It has nothing to do with business. Even if you try to make it business specific, it has nothing to do with your business. Doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't even matter if you're in the wedding business. If you're in the wedding business and you deduct something like, let's say, decorations for somebody else's wedding, that makes sense. But if you're deducting your wedding, your own personal wedding, that shit is not allowed. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Deducting your own personal wedding is not allowed. So let's say for any of you simps, and the reason for why I say simps is because most girls nowadays are hoes. So they don't deserve to be getting married. Why are you marrying a whore? Most of these bitches are some hoes anyways. So why the fuck are you marrying her? And on top of that, most of these simps are idiots. So guys like these who think that they can deduct their wedding, they're morons. You're a guy. You meet a hoe. You don't get any bitches. You finally meet one hoe who she's gotten fucked by who knows how many dudes. She's sucked who knows how many dicks, and you want to marry her. And in your mind, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna marry her. I'm gonna make it very expensive. But on my tax return, I'm gonna deduct it as a business expense because we're gonna have business clients. I'm gonna give them business cards. You're a moron. 2 reasons for why you're a moron. 1, you're marrying a hoe. And 2, you think you can deduct a wedding. You're a moron. Alrighty, on to the next one. Claiming a dog as a dependent. Now, I know this one seems like common sense, but some people don't have common sense. Some people are just fucking idiots. Some people are morons. Literally, like the wedding guy. Like, why are you marrying a hoe? Claiming your dog as a dependent is not allowed, okay? In order to claim a dependent, you literally need a social security for them or an ITIN. It's impossible for a dog to have a social security or an ITIN. So how the fuck are you going to claim them? How? People have tried to claim their dog as their dependent and given them a false social security. How the fuck do you think that's gonna work? We're talking about the IRS here. They collect every single penny. They will not let that shit slide, bro. I'm telling you, whoever thinks they can claim their dog as a dependent and get away with it, morons, bro. That shit is impossible. That shit's not happening. Now, in my heart, I do sympathize with dog owners or cat owners or any pet owner because raising a pet, it's almost like your child. I've never had a pet personally, but I can only put myself in the perspective of a person who does own a pet, and I sympathize for them because if I had a pet, let's say a dog, I would treat them like my child. And childs, you can put them as a dependent on your tax return. So why can't you put your dog as a dependent if you treat them like a child? But like I said, it's common sense for why you can't claim a dog. The IRS clearly states you can't claim any pets, and you're still trying to claim them. You're a moron. So I do sympathize with them. I do feel a little bit bad for them, but it is what it is. That's just the IRS law. Now it'd be great. It'd be great if we could claim pets as dependents. That'd be fantastic. We'd have a lot more pets. Honestly, if you look at it from a societal perspective, it would actually be a lot more beneficial for pets, the world, and for humans if we were able to claim pets as dependents on a tax return. The reason being is that on the tax return, the government, they give you a credit for having children because they want more children in the world. That's why they give you a credit for having kids because 1, kids cost money, and 2, they want more kids in the world. Now, a lot of animals are mistreated in the world. So if the IRS or Congress or the government made a law saying, oh, you're going to be able to claim a credit on your tax return for having an animal and making sure that you take care of it and proving that you take care of it, then more animals would be taken care of, and by extension, you would get more money as the owner for having an animal, and then it's a win-win for everybody. But the IRS are some dickheads and there's some pussies and they want to get money out. It is what it is. That would be a good idea, right? If people are arguing about animals suffering out in the wilderness and being strays and being abandoned, then why doesn't the government make a law saying, okay, if you have an animal, we're going to give you a tax credit. We're going to give you money for taking care of an animal. That should be something in the law. Just like a kid. If you actually think about it, a kid and an animal, they're not very much different. A kid doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. A kid doesn't really know how to speak. If we're talking about 2, 3-year-olds, he can really walk sometimes. A kid is also a moron, just like an animal. Sometimes animals, they're fucking stupid. So pretty much what I'm saying is that animals, they should be showing some love as well. I have some heart for some animals. I'm not a complete hater. I love animals. But the fact that this guy tried to claim an animal as his dependent and put a false social security, he's just a moron. You could have easily Googled it. No, the IRS does not allow animals as dependents. Why the fuck are you claiming a pet as your dependent? Now, I'm not saying that I hate animals. I'm not saying that animals shouldn't be claimable as dependents on the tax return. I just got done ranting on for a whole entire minute about why animals should be able to be claimed as dependents on the tax return. But like I said, the IRS, the government, Congress, there's some dickheads. Alright, bro. So the next one is TikTok toys as branding. So this lady, of course, it was a female. I'm not trying to talk shit about females, but females, sometimes, girls, they make the stupidest mistake. I don't know which one's more stupid. This one or the dog one. They're both equally stupid. So basically, this girl, she is a TikTok influencer. She makes videos on TikTok. TikTok, if you make money off it, you're treated as self-employed, okay? They don't give you a W-2. You treat it as an independent contractor. You treat it as self-employed. So for that reason, she thought that she could take business expenses, and she can. She can take business expenses that relate to her business. For example, let's say she wants to deduct a camera. She can deduct the camera. Why? Because she's a content producer. She's a content creator. You need the camera to record the videos. That is a business expense. It relates to your business. She's a content creator. She buys the camera to help her record her videos for her business. That makes sense. She's a TikTok creator. Now, this lady, she was recording videos and her son's toys in the back of the video. Like, for example, here, this black thing is in the background. This lady was recording a TikTok video just like this, and there were toys in the background, and she thought that she could deduct the toys because she considered them as branding for her video and for her brand. What the fuck? Bro, toys that belong to your kid are a personal expense. They are not deductible as whatever you want to call it, as branding or as making your video more aesthetic. They are not deductible as that. If you want to take a business expense, one, it has to be used only for your business, and two, it has to relate to your business. How the fuck do toys relate to your business? You weren't even talking about toys. You were talking about some other bullshit. She was talking about something else. She was talking about who the fuck knows what. She wasn't even talking about the toys. She just had them in the background, and she thought she could deduct whatever dollars they were worth on her tax return. It's crazy. So no, if you have toys in your background, or for that matter, anything else in your background, and it doesn't relate to your business, you can't deduct it because you think that it makes your brand look better, or it makes your brand look more aesthetic. You can't do that. Now, there was this guy, right? This Domino's pizza lover, and he ordered Domino's pizza every single night, bro. Every single night he ordered this shit, bro. And this guy, he works from home. He was self-employed. I guess he did like the social media shit. And on his tax return, he claimed that it was a business meal. Business meals can only be deducted if one, you're doing it with a client, two, it's for business purposes, and three, it's not lavish or extravagant. Oh, and one last one, you can only deduct 50% of the meal, okay? You can't deduct the entire amount. This guy though, he was working from home. He didn't have a client next to him. It wasn't related to his business at all because he didn't have a client. He wasn't speaking business. He was just technically, he was working from home. He was working on his business while eating the pizza, but that's not allowed. You have to be at a place with a client, talking business for business purposes, and you can only deduct 50% of it. This fat ass was deducting 100% of it, thinking that he could buy pizza endlessly and deduct it as a business expense. Bruh, come on, bruh. This is what I'm saying though, bruh. Some people, they have zero common sense. Zero common sense. Bro, hop on Google. If you would have Googled it, it would have told you, why the fuck are you acting stupid? And why the fuck are you deducting pizza, 100% of it, as a business expense when you're literally sitting on your ass, on your couch, eating pizza, watching Netflix, pretending you're working on your computer. You're not working, you don't have any clients next to you, and it's not for business purposes. Now, if you do plan on deducting business meals, like I said, you can do it, but you have to be with a client. It has to be business related. It can't be lavish or extravagant. You also can't go to a 5-star restaurant and deduct fucking a $10,000 steak. You can't do that shit. And you can only deduct 50% of it. Don't try to deduct the entire meal, okay? It's not possible. Like I said, the IRS, there's some dickheads, okay? That's just the law in the IRS. That's just the law in the tax book. The IRS, there's some assholes. It is what it is. All right, bro, now for this final one. This dude, bro, this dude, oh my goodness. I don't know whether to feel pity for him. I don't know whether to feel embarrassed for him. I don't know whether to feel sadness for him. I don't know whether to feel anger. I don't know. But this guy got to me. So the IRS states that you can deduct medical expenses if you itemize your deductions. Now, this guy, bruh, this guy. So I guess this guy was single. Now, I'm gonna make some assumptions. And I don't want anybody to go at me for making these assumptions. But more than likely, they're true, okay? He was probably fat. He was probably ugly. He's probably never had a girlfriend. And he probably hasn't had sex ever in his life, okay? Now, this guy, he went to the hospital and he told him that he wanted a kid. But he went to the hospital and told him that he wanted a kid through surrogacy. So what happens during this process is jerk off, you nut in a container, and the female is impregnated for you. But you don't actually fuck the female. You don't have sex with the female. They pretty much just inject her with the sperm. She has your kid. The female doesn't stay with you at all. She just gives you a kid, and that's pretty much it. So basically, the process. Let me break it down for you guys. You're a guy. You go to the hospital. You want to have surrogacy to have a kid. You jerk off. You nut in a cup. The cup has your sperm. The doctor inserts it into the vagina of a female. The female has your kid. The female is in no way linked to you, other than the kid, obviously, but she doesn't have to stay with you. And then you now have a kid through surrogacy without actually having sex. Because obviously, like I said, this guy was probably fat, ugly, a dork, and he's never had sex. So you're probably wondering, how the fuck does this relate to taxes? Well, this guy actually paid for it. So when you're doing surrogacy, you have to pay for it because you're getting something out of it. He actually had to pay thousands of dollars in order to go through this process. And by the end of it, during the tax year, he thought that he could actually deduct this as a medical expense because technically it is medical expense. But in the eyes of the IRS, this is a personal expense. It's not related to a medical condition in any way. You vouched for it. You wanted it. You can't deduct that shit as a medical expense, right? Like nothing was wrong with the guy. The only thing that was wrong with the guy is that he couldn't get a girlfriend. But that's not a valid enough reason to make that a medical expense. You not being able to get laid, you not being able to get some pussy doesn't make that a medical expense. So the fact that he went through surrogacy because he couldn't get laid and he couldn't get no pussy and he couldn't find a mate, he can't use that as a reason to have a medical expense on the tax return. That one's definitely the craziest one I've heard, bro. Going through surrogacy, thinking that you could deduct that as a medical expense because you can't have sex. Physically, he could have sex, but he wasn't able to have sex because he didn't have a girlfriend. That's why he went through surrogacy. He couldn't get no pussy. Now, I know what people are gonna say. People are gonna say, well, maybe he had like a bad experience with his previous wife, or maybe he was divorced, or maybe he just, I don't know, maybe he wants to be a single father. Bro, no guy, I'll tell you this from personal experience and from people I know, from men I know, no man, and I say man because a real man, he doesn't want to raise his child by himself. He wants a wife to be with him by his side, and he wants a wife to raise his child with him. Every man understands this, and any person with a brain understands this. So for people to say, oh, you shouldn't be talking this bad about him, maybe he this, maybe he that, bro, the fact is that he couldn't get laid, and I guarantee you he's probably a fat fuck, and he's ugly as shit, and he probably has a small wee-wee. He probably has never had a girlfriend. I guarantee it, bro. I guarantee it. It is what it is, though, bro. Some people are just like that. But yeah, this guy thinking that he could deduct thousands of dollars as a medical expense for surrogacy is crazy, bro. Now, this video was just for educational purposes. I'm not trying to bash on these people. I know I sounded a little harsh, but to be fair, some of these people, they don't have common sense. They're morons, bro. You guys can't hate on me for talking shit about them, because some of these people do, like, bro, what? It's crazy. Like I said, I'm not trying to talk shit about these people. I didn't mention any names because I don't want people to go after them. Like I said, I'm not trying to spread hate in the world, but these are my actual thoughts that go through my head. And some people, they need to get yelled at. Sometimes some people need to get bullied in order to understand that what they're doing and the way they think is retarded. That's just how life is sometimes. That's just how it is. But yeah, this video is done. Those were the 5 stupidest things that I've seen people try to deduct on their tax return. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys give it a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.